Welcome to Building Great Co-Living Spaces, Insights from the Luminaries of Co-Living. Today we have Maria on the show from Canada. And Maria, can you give our listeners a short introduction about who you are and what you do in the co-living industry?
Yes, hello, I'm Maria. I'm from Canada and many other places. My citizenship is from Japan, even though I don't really look very Japanese. And I grew up in France. Also have family in Africa. So yeah, quite honest, I've been traveling since I'm a kid to just visit the family. I kept on traveling a lot. I work in the online training industry, so I work remotely. Been able to travel thanks to that too, and that's how I discovered the co-living space, like the co-living world, by being a customer myself. Actually, the first time uh, I got aware that co-living existed. It's because my friend saw an article about Live It, so that's in Indonesia, and was like, "Whoa, Maria, that fits your lifestyle. You should go check it out." And I've been, and then I visited a few more co-living, and I realized there's nothing in that space in Montreal. I wish there was because I was already quite busy with work. I would have just used it because when I was away, I had a condo, an apartment, and I was renting it while I was away. It was hell. It's just a lot to take care of. So yeah, that's why I started in that field. So I opened the first co-living space, I believe, in Canada. Nomad Coliving was still the only, I would say, real one in Montreal where it's really community based. There's a lot of people who are renting apartments or rooms, but sadly, there is nothing such as a community based space in Montreal yet. Can't wait to see
Excellent.
more.
Maria, when it comes to curating communities, what are some of the best practices that co-living operators should be aware of?
I would say really the selection process is very important. I've seen because I visited a lot of them, and I believe that each time I visited one where there's no selection, basically anyone could get in. So there would be tourists, there would be students. It's kind of a mix. If it intended to have students or to have tourists, it's fine. I mean, in our case, we built a co-living space for digital nomads, and actually, with time, we realized that there's a lot of new immigrants who have the same kind of needs. So we also welcome a few of them. So they arrive in the country, they need the space. We call it a transient space where they spend 2 3 months. They need to get to know people. They need the place to work from because I welcome only the remote worker that are new immigrants, and yeah, I think it's important to have that selection process and that we have an interview process. It's not just a form. Me and sometimes some other community member interview every person who come. So it's a way to answer all the questions to see if it's really a fit, if the form wasn't satisfying enough, and also to start talking about the rules because I realized that talking about the rule before people come, when people come, and while people are in helps a lot. If you wait for them to make the mistake, it's it's gonna be crazy. I believe you're gonna have over 200 people. Imagine we're at only around 18, 20 people. So
Excellent. I mean, as
yeah.
a German, of course, I embrace all the rules and the rule making. But what do you think is something that many co-living operators forget or do wrong when it comes to curating their communities?
Well, of course, first to not select the community, to not even have a specific community in mind. They're just like, let's open the co-living, looks fun. But I think co-living is really about a community. It's not just renting rooms. So that would be the first mistake, to not identify the community. Some of them don't seem to know the community. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to do something for digital nomads," but they don't really know the needs of digital nomads because they haven't been to co-livings, or they're not one themselves, or they didn't speak to enough of them to understand the needs, because it's specific needs. Each community is going to have a specific need. The example, if you do one for immigrants, would be a little bit different maybe. I find that the community that we have here, it's the same kind of need, but it's also remote worker that we have. From the moment they're not remote worker, it might be a little bit different because, well, they might need to be near transportation. They might need like different things. So yeah, understanding, identifying the community, understanding the needs, um, and yeah, I think that's super important things. And the roles, understand what the co-liver journey is going to be like from the moment they come in, well, from the moment they email you first time to the moment they leave, to think of the rules that will make, the rules are not there to be mean or anything, but it's to make other people's life easier.
Excellent. Maria, you have traveled the world extensively. Like, do you have some examples of co-living spaces where you would say these spaces really got the curation of their communities right?
Well, co-working Bansko, I thought was an interesting example because it's not a co-living, but I felt like there was a big community spirit. It was really fun to hang out at different spaces, and yeah, you have that community feel. People help each other quite quickly. People would bring me to the grocery, which was very convenient, or I've been invited to parties pretty quickly. So this feel I actually didn't have in a lot of space. I have to think, because a lot of the spaces I've been to honestly been closed, more than half, probably like 75% of the space I've been to, which were pre-COVID because I didn't travel during COVID or didn't travel much. Um, so just for convenient, well, just for important reasons. So the spaces I've been to before COVID, it was very early in the game. Um, I've been Rome doesn't exist anymore, but Rome Bali is a good example of where the community was quite strong. Although the community wasn't, the selection process wasn't quite there because there was tourists, but we would just ignore them. And then I would hang out with the nomads, and I met a few very interesting people. Sadly, Rome is not there anymore. Uh, all the Romes, I've been to the one in Tokyo, and it was way weaker. So I believe that Bali was probably one of the first one, and it's very difficult to replicate. So maybe that's one thing. The spaces where I've been, when there's one of them, it seems quite easy. The ones where there's a replica, it seems difficult. I don't want to name anything, but I've heard pretty bad comments when there's multiple co-living space um, in one. Then I've been. I actually haven't been that, like, I've been to a lot where the community wasn't that strong, or it was starting. So I've been in one in India where it's starting pretty well. I think it's gonna be interesting. It's called Akolmia. We had a lot of conversation. They were just starting, but as I was there, I see them implement things, and I'm away now, and I see really more and more interesting posts on social media. Social media is a good way to see how co-living do. When I see very clean, empty rooms, I don't go usually. I try to go when I see people on social media. Um, so I also, because I host so many people who go to many co-living, I hear, and I know some people who run co-living space I haven't been to, but of course Sun and Co I think is a must. And then I hear a lot of good things about Nine Co-living. I hear a lot of good things about different co-living that I haven't been to actually.
Excellent. From your experience, like, what would you recommend for our co-living space that we are building in Semkovo? Do you have any advice for us?
It's frightening. It's so many people. So that's one thing. I think the community building is going to be very difficult because it's so many people. So probably it's very different. I don't even know. For us, it's pretty organic because the number of people, I would say when you're like 15 to 25, 30 people, it's easier to make it a little bit more organic. People all know each other, but at 200 people, people won't all know each other, most likely. So probably if, as we don't put a lot of effort on events because people build them naturally, there's a lot of things to do every day. Here I would say maybe with 200 people it would have to be more directed. I would say maybe talk to commons or to bigger companies who have bigger buildings also. So I have an input for smaller space, well, smaller mid-sized spaces, right? Like I wouldn't know what to do if there's like 5 rooms, for example. I would not know. But when it's 200 rooms, it's such a different dynamic. Here, what we have is when it's very packed, when we have couples, so we can go to up to 20 people. There's smaller groups, that cliques that forms around activities. So some people go climbing, some people go hiking, some people go at the gym, movies. So there's small groups that form. They do their own bubble, their own space on WhatsApp, and they do their own activities. And they, of course, they blend for other things. And people like these groups are not exclusive, where you can be in two, three groups. So I think this, like facilitating this, might help. So trying to see who's interested in what. We newly have an app, but for us, we didn't need that before, and it's someone here who's starting to build it. If it's 200 people, it would be nice to have whether an app or a way to identify the faces with a name, perhaps a country and interests, to facilitate that matchmaking, right? Because it's not as easy, again, to meet people. And if you're cooking with two, three other people, which is the case here, because we're not enough people, like it's not 15 people cooking at the same time, you get to know these people. But when it's 200 people, I think people will have their own kitchen anyway. But cooking or being with 50 people at the same time can be a little bit intimidating, more so if you're introverted. And even for me, I'm more on the extrovert side. If it's too many people, it's a lot of effort for me, and I get, you have that social tiredness. So, yeah, my thought without experiencing it, because I haven't been in the co-living with that many people too, but would be to try to create smaller clusters around interests, so smaller communities maybe.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Maria, for sharing all your knowledge with us. If somebody wants to get in touch with Maria, maybe stay at her co-working space to check out Canada and see what's going on there, we will have the information up after this video. And for everyone else, we continue our insights from the luminaries of co-living every Tuesday and Thursday. So please tune in again. Maria, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
hope to see you soon in person.
Yeah, always. Bye bye.